Hi everyone, this is Beck again, and I just wanted to respond to an email that I received about how I get my maps to look the way that I do, um, just in terms of there's some aesthetics that seem to work out a little that can be not exactly the default behavior of Tinderbox. And so this won't be a very long video, but I just wanted to um, just point out a few things that I learned along the way that made a big difference. There's very basic stuff, but just to point it out in case you are trying to make maps and you want it to look, you're encouraged by it looking pretty, basically, which is encouraging to me. So I, I spend some time trying to do that. So the first thing is the, the color palette of the whole Tinderbox file. The default color palette, if you just start a new file, is this brown with the beveled edge, and that's it feels dated. Even just making it flat would do a lot. And so what I do when and you can do this at any point in your file, I don't think it matters, you can change the color palette of your Tinderbox file. And I believe that is by doing Command 8. Yep, and so just Command 8 will get you to this palette. There are probably other ways to get here, but Command 8 is what I remember, and then there's colors. And I'm not sure how to get other options besides the ones that come with Tinderbox, but the ones that come with Tinderbox, if you click Modern, that's a flat, nice, attractive palette. So you just click Modern and click Apply, and you'll see that's the same palette I'm using. You can go with Modern. There's some interesting interaction on this list, by the way. So like if you wanted to go with something like this one, I hate Ashbury. Well, no, that's not a good one. Let's see. Let's go back to, I think, the normal one. I don't know where the normal one is. Standards, probably. Yeah, okay. See, this is so confusing. So this is, I believe, the same color palette as we had earlier, but it's totally different color. So it's just interesting when you start playing with this, it almost feels like it inherits some stuff. And once you get to a color palette that has another beveled edge, you're going to see that lots of them have beveled edges. Anyway, I can't get it to work right now, but I generally start obviously with Modern, just click Apply, and now you have a nice plain default palette to work with, and I find that kind of encouraging. So I'll close that out. The other thing that's really nice is that, so when you have a link to, so I picked this part because this is sort of little kludgy. I have a situation like this, and I want this is actually, first off, this is a nice little tip. If you hold down Option, you can select multiple nodes to move them all at once. It's a nice little thing. So you can see here what we had before, Concepts was going over here, and we want it to go here. It actually, the way that it was before, we couldn't even quite tell that it was Concepts. It almost looked like it was going to Designers. Here, I'll undo. This is what we had before. You could actually almost see that was actually pointing to Designers. Very unhelpful. So all you have to do is click the node where all the arrows are coming from, and then kind of go towards where the arrow is close to the box that you want to change where it's oriented. Click and drag it, and you'll get this little arrows. If you just drag over that arrow, it will actually assign it, so that's always going to come from that part. Similarly, you can do that down here. If I wanted this to come from this one, for example, I would just do that, and it would come from that one. I don't know what we just did there. That's interesting. We're going to do it again. Yeah, see, now it's going to be ugly and come from that one. So just click and drag it back. And so I just want to show you also, if I click this, it doesn't work. It needs to activate the links. And secondly, if I do it in the middle, you just don't exactly know which one it's going to go to. So try to get kind of close to it either way. Another very obvious one I'm sure everybody has figured out, but this little lever here will make your arrows do things that, you might need to adjust that some to make things flow in the way that you want to flow. Another pretty basic thing, but I'm still going to show it, is if you want to change the color of a link or the way that it looks, just click the eye and you have all sorts of options here to dash or bold or make it broad. It's kind of interesting effects that they have. And you can change the color as well. And we'll really love this about the color. So this is something that I did here. Just undo that. I liked Poppy. I think Poppy's a great color, but it's a little too bright for a node and it's a little too light for a link for this particular color palette. So what I did was click I clicked Poppy, and then underneath Poppy there is this great thing that you can do one shade dark, one shade darker, one shade darkest, and light, lighter, lightest for every color. So I made all of the links one shade dark, and I made all of the notes. What do I click here? I do Command 1 to see my note colors one shade light, and that just worked out perfectly for the color palette I was looking for. Okay, now the other thing that I do, I'm going to go to a different map for this, is really not cool, but it does get me to it gets me to have some aesthetic control over my maps, which is more important right now than the actual proper linking of things. I know I will regret this in the future, but I'm still going to share it because it has helped me, and for me personally, having beautiful maps to work with is encouraging, and it brings me back to making beautiful maps, and that's in and of itself a value that I have. So I am looking for, let's just find it, neurofeedback is what I'm looking for. Okay, so I have this map that I made, and I wanted, so I have, if you want to know how to make images into notes, I have a different video for that, and I'll link to it. But I wanted to have, this image have two links to biofeedback, and I wanted to annotate those links. So I wanted to say biofeedback measures the body and it trains the mind. And I wanted there to be this loop, because it is a bit of a loop the way that it works. I wanted that kind of visual reminder. But I wanted to create new notes off of my annotation of a link as opposed to new notes. Now I could have done that by saying biofeedback measures and then a new note saying body and then the body note going to that. I could have done that, but I just wanted to play with it and see if I could get it work. And I did get it to work, but it's super kludgy, but I'm still showing it to you. So what I did, Mark Bernstein's probably going to be so embarrassed and mad about this, is I created a completely blank note, and I put it, so you can see as I move this around, this note is what everything is linked off of. It's not actually linked off of. I don't know why everything's being so slow right now, maybe because I'm doing a screen recording. It's linked off of a completely blank, useless note, but it creates this really nice, I'll zoom out a little bit, this really nice way. This is another thing about the aesthetics of maps. The way that Tinderbox works, it kind of resets things, so you need to look at things at a certain, you need to always be looking at things at a certain zoom, otherwise it's going to kind of mess it up. But anyway, so measures body is, I don't know why this is being so slow, is got a nice big list of things, all the different ways that we can measure body with neurofeedback, and then the two main ways, psychological theories that train the mind, branch off of that, and that's just perfect for my understanding of the method. So So basically what that looks like is I create a note, I delete the title, I hit Command 1 to get my little inspector that shows me everything. I say transparent for the note, and then I take away the shadow. And sometimes I also have to, for some reason, take away the border. This one I didn't have to take away the border. And now I have this blank note that if you're not careful, you'll forget where it is. And I make it fairly small. And now I can link things off of that note. So there it is. And I can link things off of it by doing that. And then move this in my slow computer. And I can move this around to mostly wherever I want it. And therefore I have this like kind of special thing where I can come off of annotations, which is important to me. Okay, the last thing, I said it's going to be short, and of course it's not. The last thing that I wanted to show you is this this tricky thing I did. What was that note? That was in positive psychology. No, it wasn't. Was it? Yes, it was. Okay. Positive technology is I put a an image, and I did that thing I just showed you, which is the little invisible note to get things coming off of the image in important ways. But the trick to this is that this is the image right here. You can see it's actually kind of a large image, and it's tricky to get arrows inside of here, because if I want to click a note and let's just say this note is invisible, even though it's not, you can see right here there's an invisible note, but I'm going to keep this visible so it's easy for you to see. If I'm not careful, I'll either concatenate the note so that it will loop it together, which is very nice. I think it's called a composite note. Don't want that though, because then I have this, it's not the effect I'm looking for. And also, if I'm not careful, I'll go inside of the note and I'll create a new level, which is totally not what I'm into. I mean, now this is what this looks like. That's not cool. So one of the things that I figured out is that when you're dragging, you want to have your mouse not inside the note. So for example, now I'm inside the note. You see where my mouse is? I'm inside the note, and now I'm not. So if I am trying to place an invisible note, I want to make sure that my mouse is really far on the edge so that I can get close to it without going in. And then you'll see that we'll have a situation where we have some recognition of, there it is, right there. That means I'm going to concatenate and see it happened. But if I'm moving around and I get to where it's just kind of unaware of me, it won't concatenate. And so just to let you know, it's tricky, but there's a way to do it. And so you just sort of move around until you get into that zone of that. And there was one more thing I wanted to tell you. What was it? Yeah, it had to do with arrows. What was it? All right, well, I'll stop this, and if I remember what it is, I'll come back. Remember what it was. So the other thing is sometimes you have a note and you have another note, and they're connected, and they're right here in line, and the line looks straight and good. But sometimes you move things, and you see this, and then look, it did it just then. The line's actually not straight anymore, and I don't know why that is, but you can try. You can move it all around and get those guides just right, and that way it worked. But sometimes it just keeps popping it to the place it thinks it needs to go, and you can't get it exactly where you want it to. And so one way that I have learned to deal with this is to hold down Shift. And you see how the lines are now gray instead of green? So if I'm not holding down Shift, they're green, and then I hold down Shift and they're gray. When I hold down Shift, I can put it exactly where I want it to be, and so it will obey when I hold down Shift. So that was the thing that I wanted to say. If you're trying to get things lined up, and it's just popping it into some sort of like smart grid situation, hold down Shift, keep it held down, and you'll be able to move it exactly where you want to. And last thing I'll do is just to show you, because this is kind of tricky, like how did I get this here? You'll see like I had to really size this blank note oddly to get, and I actually changed it, so to get it where I want it to go, which would be right there, and then I would need to move these up so that they're exactly how I want them to be, and that sort of thing. So that's what, see right here I'm going to concatenate. Nope, I didn't concatenate. Okay, good. Never want to do that, right? There, see, so that's sort of thing. So those are the little boxes, little invisible boxes I have going on. If you notice, it turned red because my mouse was there, but I need to keep it under there. I am, so I'm good. All right, so that's it. Hope that's helpful. And yeah, continue to send me your questions. Thanks. Bye.